If you can get a win by the end of your first week, and invariably those wins are going to be cutting stuff.
How do you be, I guess, efficient on a growth path, but you've also got like, tough budgets sometimes?
It's the big focus of every business is how do we get bigger, how do we scale?
When you go in, what do you see as the biggest kind of areas that they're wasting money on?
How comfortable are you to say, I think you're wasting money with this head of the business, or I think you're wasting money with this agency?
Every dollar has to be spent to drive value. One philosophical point is to position marketing as an investment, not a cost.
Okay, welcome, Jeremy. I think we've met, a few days ago, I think.
Yep.
So I can do a good spiel. So your background, you've come from a bit of like NatWest, Bupa. I think you've had a huge career. I think was there a bit of Travelex? Is that is that right?
There was Travelex in there as well, and a few other brands. Yeah.
So you've done marketing, growth. What would you say? You've done a bit of brand, performance. You really focus now, I guess, on the growth area.
Yeah. Growth is definitely a big focus right now, as it is for most marketers.
Yeah.
It's the big focus of every business is how do we get bigger, how do we scale?
Yeah, scale. It's like scale or growth is this community word, no? Oh, we talk a lot about community too.
That's big.
Okay, so you've kind of gone full time and now you're building something and you're working with other brands. How is that? You're working with multiple, how's that working?
Yeah, so at the beginning of my career, it was very much focused on corporates, big blue chip companies, as you've mentioned, NatWest, Bupa, nationwide, and then second half, working for founder-led companies, scale-ups, primarily in financial services. And I have set up my own consultancy called Rocket Jam.
Cool.
Designed to provide marketing support consultancy. I call it CMO as a service, actually.
Nice.
Capability.
I like that.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Steal that one.
To scale-ups that, as we know, fractional is a big thing at the moment.
Yeah.
Everyone loves fractional.
Everyone loves
it. Freelance, fractional Fs.
But what's most important is businesses love it because...
But why do they love it?
Good talent.
They can
at a cheap
get
price.
top quality talent at a rate and a price that works for their business.
Yeah.
And I think that's critical.
So on the topic we were going to have today with you was about how to save budget on marketing. What do we think?
Yeah.
While you're working in growth. So how to grow while saving. What do you think? I mean, how are you managing that as well with you've come from big brands as well. So it's a bit of a different shift is how do you be, I guess, efficient on a growth path, but you've also got tough budgets sometimes.
Yeah. And I suppose one philosophical point is to position marketing as an investment, not a cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's there to drive growth. It's there to drive a return. Yeah. And I think that opens the door a little bit. But of course, in many ways, I like to think of the marketing budget as my own money. Yeah. That's the sort of mindset you need it's precious. Every dollar.
Same, every penny with my clients. I'm like,
has to be spent to drive value, I think. And I think that's the starting point as to, how much should you be spending and where should you be spending and what do you need to be spending it on?
Yeah.
And of course, I think one of the dangers is that you're too focused on today and not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we know if you look at Ehrenberg Bass research, only 95% of your potential audience are in the market today. So you've got to ensure that you're also building up the brand for tomorrow, so that when those customers enter the market, you're ready and you're top of mind.
Yeah,
Nice.
agreed.
What are most people spending their money on in marketing in finance at the moment? Is it search or?
I mean, performance marketing is where a lot of the money goes.
Performance, I know, right?
And it does depend on what the objectives are that the business is trying to hit. But you can burn cash really quickly on performance. So, I think one challenge is trying to fill the factory today without looking at how that business converts. And I think that's again a kind of a danger for a lot of marketers is that they focus on just getting the forms complete, the phone ringing. Yeah. Rather than ensuring that does actually convert into opportunity for the business.
Yeah. Do you find, because even with our clients at the moment is, okay, we've got this whole piece around driving leads, but actually a lot of our role has moved into sales because it's where the biggest problem is actually converting the leads, right? So do you find that you're doing a few different hats?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've got to work hand in hand with whatever that team is called, the SDR team, the sales team, the inbound
every abbreviation.
team.
The hunters.
The hunters.
Killers,
the killers.
Killers and hunters.
And to be completely connected, and this is also, I think, part of something that I'm really a big believer in is marketing.
Yeah.
Within the organization. And I think part of that is sitting down and working with the other teams to connect the dots. And I think often marketing can be seen as maybe a bit aloof. They're in the corner talking to the agencies.
So you're trying to win the hearts and minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Plus, everybody within the company they can assist you in what you're trying to do, whether it's following the brand on social media, engaging with the content, or just selling that story, to the customer that you've built the campaign around.
Yeah. So much on that topic. I'm like, okay, so what even around, I guess, some of your clients now, like some of the industries you're working in? What are some of those, at least?
Well, it's mainly financial services.
Okay, cool.
Fintech, lending, broking, that part of the ecosystem.
Yeah. And what are they kind of wanting to, you said performance marketing, right? But what are they thinking about with content? Because it's an interesting one for the financial services.
Yeah. Excuse me. I mean, content is critical, and building that content engine, it takes a lot of time to create a really great piece of content. And often I find that businesses see that as one hit. Yeah. And trying to repurpose that content and to, I suppose, to feature it in as many touch points as possible. Yeah. Video's growing in terms of popularity. I mean, they say a picture speaks 1,000 words. I mean, video is just everywhere. And we know LinkedIn is really pushing that at the moment. And that requires a different philosophy in terms of planning and production quality. Yeah. So businesses have got to kind of move away from just focusing on employing freelance writers, copywriters, editors, to actually creating that production capability, which is becoming easier because there's so many tools out there at the moment to help you do it. Yeah, I
agree. But even thinking of, I mean, I've got so many questions on this. Right? I've like, keep going. On saving budget, right? Because with our clients, similar, like on a growth journey, and we say, okay, we need to cut costs a lot of the time. You've got to. So where are you finding that, you might be cutting more costs in the financial services space? Like quick wins.
I mean, quick wins is be really great at negotiation. Yeah. At the very beginning, ensure that you aren't overpaying. Yep. And you're not overcommitting as well. So that's definitely a big area, and people sometimes find it uncomfortable to negotiate. But actually, if you're building a relationship, you need to find a win-win, I think, for both parties. You've got to make your budget work as hard as possible. And again, in terms of saving, I prefer to talk about, well, if we can make a saving somewhere, we can redeploy somewhere else.
Yeah, invest somewhere else for sure.
Exactly. And I think when it comes to performance marketing, I mean, I've had a lot of success with day parting, where you're just spending at the right time during the right part of the week, and that's connected again with your SDR team. And I remember I worked for a business, and they were spending an awful lot on performance marketing. Yeah. And it was pretty much consistent throughout the entire week. So weekend, even Friday evening, but their teams weren't working over the weekend. So all those opportunities that had accrued from Friday onwards were sitting there. And speed wins. Speed matters. And invariably on Monday, you're trying to work through the opportunities that have come through. Yeah. And conversion rate's really poor. So just spending at the right time during the week. And of course, if you're not spending, if you're cutting 2 days out of the cycle, then immediately you've got a cost saving there.
Yeah, I think so. Like the fact of automation in those pieces, right? We've got a client that's in, actually property investment, and they were getting, again, all their leads on the weekend, but like leads are as fresh as they are at that moment and that time, right? So we were like, cool, well, let's do Calendly or book a call in, so it schedules time in the diary, and they know that person, that customer is going to speak to someone on Monday versus
that's a good idea.
Set up time on the Saturday,
Yeah, that's really good.
And like Calendly's changed so much for everyone, right? Like I love it. I know you guys, naughty, I'm going to make you use it more, but it's amazing.
Naughty.
Because it looks at all your diaries, saves me so much time, and it's just like any automation. I'm always thinking about, like, we're all kind of thinking about in marketing, okay, how can I automate that piece? Yeah. And so I think that's what founders should think about sometimes.
You've got to think about automating and injecting velocity into it as well. Yeah. So, if you put yourself in the shoes of the customer who's looking for a solution and they're looking at it over the weekend, they're probably not only contacting your company, right? They're contacting, in my experience, 4 or 5. And sometimes fastest finger wins, right? So you've got to get in there.
Exactly, the fast. Honestly, there's so many topics I could talk about that, like with jobs, but someone just getting a job because it's like faster than someone else. I just chatted to someone.
Yeah, 100%. Because I was going to say, on the flip side to Jack's question, so where do you fit? And you're working with a lot of different companies now, probably a lot of founders, potentially. So when you go in, what do you see as the biggest kind of areas that they're wasting money on?
Well, I mean, I say sometimes their agencies are not great.
Okay. Always
so
agencies.
That
I agree. So when I come in and I'm like, oh God, great.
There are some great agencies out there, but I suppose it depends on the setup, because sometimes in my experience, depending at the stage of the company, the founder or the CEO might be running marketing. That might be the de facto.
True. That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. And they're time poor, so they might not have enough time to really kind of hold those partners to account. So
that's the thing, though. If you're doing everything, right? Like, you need someone dedicated.
Yeah,
absolutely. You need someone dedicated, and agencies. You need to have a really strong relationship. You need to kind of keep them on their toes. I love them.
Yeah.
But sometimes, they get distracted. And,
100%.
Yeah, there's other.
So you can get it, because the model for agencies, I mean, that's why it has to change. Is like, you've either got more juniors doing the work, or then like you don't get to talk to the seniors, which is why some people love the boutique agencies, because
you get to speak to the founders. Jinx
about this.
And I mean, I'm not all about squeezing costs, but invariably.
It's tough, though.
Startups, scale-ups, they're relying a lot on freelancers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a huge bandwidth of quality and cost out there. And I think just ensuring that you've got the right team, they tend to be some of the quick wins.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then very quickly, I like to focus on conversion.
Okay.
And to ensure that we're getting the right opportunities coming to the business, and they can convert into revenue ultimately, because that gives you a bit more space to play with as things move forward. So, you can't cut the cloth too small in the short term. You've got to open up the opportunity. I do think sometimes that founders also invest a lot in that wonderful looking website, which looks amazing.
Everyone's like, we're dropping 20 grand on a website. And I'm like, do not drop 20 grand on a website today. Like a small 20 grand for a really tiny business.
A photo shoot, all these sorts of things which look amazing, but you don't need those straight away.
That's why I always say to Sarah, come on, Sarah, where should we be spending, Sarah? And you're like, don't. I'm like, we need to, because you can do lots of podcast content. You can do lots of creative.
You can, and I think sometimes smaller businesses with leaner budgets are arguably more creative, or they have to be more creative.
Yeah, there's no choice.
They're working with less.
Yeah.
And then once you've created something, it's just to repurpose and reuse it as much as possible.
Are we seeing budgets actually decrease because freelancers can either be the same as a permanent employee or slightly more? So what would you say you're seeing in terms of like the finance industry? Is it decreasing, like the budgets, or is it just generally the same as
I think
3
there's
years
this
ago?
expectation with AI in the game. Plus the market's been tough, right? It has been tough for gosh. It's almost every year it starts like, this year's going to be
this year everyone said that, and I was like, this is grim.
Yeah.
We're all getting more resilient, put it that way. These are positive.
That's a nice positive.
Exactly.
and in many ways, a successful CMO is one that comes in under budget.
True.
That's a good point.
So you got to spend wisely, I think. And there's so many choices that we face that we could spend our money on, and you just want to be really diligent. And that's why I'm also, the budget discipline, working with the CFO is absolutely critical. And you want to have that conversation and to be on the money. And I think quite often when I join a business or start working with a business, I'm auditing where the budget is going. And sometimes things are coded as marketing and they're not really marketing.
Oh, really? Oh, that's an interesting...
I love it when they do that. You go into it and you look at it and you're like,
that's not marketing.
That kind of like a trip to Paris was not marketing.
That's sales lunch.
Exactly. Sales is like, but it's chatting. Isn't marketing like communication? You're like, okay.
Yeah. So I think getting really hot on that as well. Again, it's all these kind of budget disciplines, especially if you're really counting the pennies. Going to make sure that the budget that you are accountable for is actually your budget.
I think events is hard. Another one where people have put a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
Like I've got a client that's done 200K on just an event, and I'm like, okay, if we're going to do that, then we're going to do an entire pipeline. We're going to make sure you have a target on it, and like that's what people that are sponsoring podcasts, same. They want to get their money's worth.
You've got to, and you've got to look at it. What happens before the event, and what happens afterwards, and that whole kind of ecosystem around running the event. In a way, is the easy bit.
Exactly.
Everything that goes around it.
It's just the prep and just getting people there. That's the hardest.
Yeah.
That's the hardest.
You do events, Jack, so much.
I know.
Oh my
It's the most difficult thing, I would say. It's one of the most difficult things to do.
Channel. Yeah,
but as a freelancer, obviously you're not involved in the company politics per se. So how comfortable are you to say, I think you're wasting money with this head in the business, or I think you're wasting money with this agency. This agency's taking the P out of you. You need to mix it up a little bit.
I think you have to, especially if you want to be credible.
Yeah.
But you need to have substance behind your argument.
Yeah.
I guess. So the data.
So come with figures, come with data.
Absolutely. To really underpin it. Plus, sometimes what founders don't have is what good looks like. Okay. So actually, what is a decent conversion rate, or what is a good proportion of revenue at my stage of business to be spending on marketing? Because sometimes that's also a good proxy for, are you over investing, are you under investing?
Yeah.
And I think just having that within your armory is a good way to drive those sorts of conversations.
And what about the quick wins? Because we were talking about this the other day and we were like, what is the expectation of a quick win? Like, is it in 24 hours or is it in 7 days?
The quicker the better.
Better, yeah, of course. ASAP, as my client says it. ASAP.
Yeah. If you can get a win by the end of your first week, and invariably those wins are going to be cutting stuff.
I like hearing that because you're coming from finance, and a lot of guys in cosmetics retail, they'll say to us, 3 to 6 months, but
for the quick win,
for even any win, So I think in terms of a first week, really good.
You can't survive in fractional if you've got 6 months of a one win.
Yeah, a really good suite of questions is to ask people why you're doing certain things.
Exactly.
And if they don't know why,
just get under the hood.
We've always done that. It's usually a good indicator that you could probably live without that. It's
exactly.
And
that's a really, I agree. It's like, why did you decide to do that? And they're like, it's because I just like doing long form video. And I'm like, well, that's nice, but that's not data.
Completely. And invariably, human nature is actually, I don't like stopping stuff. So maybe position it as a pause. Well, let's just see if we pause it for a while, what the impact of that will be. I mean, email is a really good example of where sometimes businesses rely on too much on email, and they're emailing too much. And you're seeing, large levels of unsubscribes, for example. And actually just toning down the quantity of emails, so pausing some of them. Invariably can result in a big uplift.
In bigger uplifts.
Yeah.
That's a good
It's just the confidence around doing that.
Yeah, because people love emails as well. That's a hard thing.
Well, then you've also got the CRM team thinking, that's my job.
Doing?
What are you doing?
And it's cause and effect with email, isn't it? Because, I mean, I think we all love to see we know the emails going out and we know the phones are going to start to ring. Almost immediately in some circumstances. So to not do that takes a bit of courage and bravery in the belief that actually it's going to result in
how do you pitch that to the owner or the boss? Like, you've got to stop emails, and if they're saying, every 100 emails I get a lead, so how do you pitch that? It's difficult, isn't it?
It is, but I think invariably I'm never advising businesses to buy data, but if you were to buy a quality email address at, I don't know, £100 a shot, and you've got a high unsubscribe rate, you're throwing money away ultimately. So again, it's probably in that cost-saving effectiveness space. But I think that's why they hire people like me, is because they want that sort of advice. What are we going to change? Because if it's just let's just keep things as they are, iterate a little bit here and there. What is going to change? Current thinking leads to current outcomes. So you've got to put some of these things on the table. And I think every founder has a slightly different view, and I think you've got to figure out what makes them tick, what's important to them. Is it cost?
They're an interesting bunch, founders, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very capable people, very intelligent people, very time poor people.
Yeah.
And actually, invariably, they do want to outsource decisions to others.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
they do. But sometimes you've got to work on getting to that point.
Have you had to learn how to change the comms, where you've had to go, rather than kind of spend 5 minutes to explain something, where with a founder you just need to say it within like 30 seconds? And
oh my God, mate.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
I try and talk as fast as my founders. And then he goes, you're going too fast. And I'm like, okay.
It's like
I'll try and match you. And he's like, you're going too slow.
That long place name in Wales with
yeah, exactly. But what's with the founders then? What's the kind of one or two marketing myths that you just wish they would unlearn?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So
unlearn micromanagement.
Sorry. Definitely at the beginning, there's maybe this sense that they've got to spend like a big pulse of spend at the very beginning. And I remember working at one business where they did exactly that. They had tube ads everywhere. And those tube ads, actually, they're hung on the wall in the office, but everyone looks at them and thinks, God, that just did nothing.
I love that, though, when you talk about that, because I'm like, sometimes people are like, oh, I'm on a billboard. Someone's going on a billboard. And I'm like, yeah, because you paid so much money for that billboard. That's not a cool thing that you're on a billboard.
Invariably, it's driven by a vanity thing,
It's true. Totally exactly by a vanity thing. Yeah. I mean, the billboard ones where there's a QR code on a billboard and you're driving past it and you've got to take a QR code on it and you're like, you have to stand in front just to get a conversion.
So you don't need big teams, you don't need big budgets, you don't need the big expensive agencies. I think you've got to proceed with caution and go where you think the opportunities are.
That's scared a lot of agencies, the big ones, because they've had to change their model. Because it is, I mean, it's freelance. You've got like your contracts being pulled. People are doing stuff on the go. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's a different era for agencies for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And invariably, rather than one big agency doing the lot, you can
get loads of little ones.
Pick smaller teams of experts to help you through the hard yards in the early days.
And you got the likes of Monzo who are like making waves in marketing in the finance area. So they're like
and
really
content
cool.
as well.
Their content's amazing. We'll get somebody from Monzo as well. It's really interesting.
It's on my list.
Oh, is it?
One of my good friends just started working there, and their team, it's amazing.
They just attract, don't they? They attract good talent, Monzo.
Yeah.
But from a marketing perspective, other than Monzo or any other finance business who are doing like interesting things, even if it's not sexy, like the unsexy stuff as well.
The unsexy stuff. I mean,
as well as sexy. I bet sexy.
I wrote a post about Skipton the other day.
I do like Skipton Building Society, yeah.
And that's because it's northern.
And actually, building societies don't get they aren't seen as the most radical or innovative.
No, it's like like a trade union, something like that.
Right, it's interesting. Anyway, yeah.
But they're really kind of pushing stuff forward, and they've got a really strong brand message. And I think I think they're I used to work with for Nationwide Building Society.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think they always struggled with how much we want to put that out there as a point of differentiation. And actually, if you ask some people today, they'll see Nationwide as a bank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's literally what I thought it was. No.
Yeah.
No, it's a building society.
They're a building society.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Branding there. Do they need to fix that, or is it a good thing that they're just a bank? People think they're a bank.
It's pros and cons, I think.
Who's doing their marketing?
Skipton are definitely pushing that.
I love Skipton, because we've worked with Skipton Building Society before, and the marketing team just seems to stay there, and they're pretty good. It's got a good bunch over there, I think.
So do you mean you like what they're doing in terms of content, or is it more just the...
They've got a great brand campaign at the moment that's focusing on advice. A lot of banks will give you free advice, right? But no one really talks about it. But actually, they're talking about that in a way that is accessible to everybody.
Love it.
That's good.
And there's so much in the news about, excuse me, most people don't have the financial knowledge that they should have to run 100%. Their own finances. So actually opening the door to help people. So it's quite
That's what great marketing is. It's the education stuff.
It's a good community message as well. But Monzo, Revolut, all the neobanks.
All the new
I'm a
ones.
big fan of Moneybox as well.
Moneybox, okay.
There's some really exciting stuff, and I think the permission to be creative and to have a bit of fun has opened up with the newer entrants in the marketplace, and
which is good.
To cut through, you've got to stand out. And I think everything that they're doing is absolutely achieving that, and we're seeing less wallpaper out there.
Are they doing stuff like on TikTok or employer branding, like pushing the bow out on the creative?
Employer branding.
I've seen Nat West doing a lot of employer.
Are they doing it as well?
TikToks, I think.
I think they're all trying their hand at TikTok because I think with TikTok, even though your customers might not be on there, their kids probably are, and that's your future customer.
I got a few customers on there. So older gens are moving there. I've got a few customers on there, but they are totally moving to TikTok. We've had a big session on TikTok yesterday, and it was pretty surprising
really
where they're moving towards. But it's changing.
Yeah, and it's cheaper to create video content now. So again, the barrier to entry is a lot lower. So it makes sense. I still think it's a really hard.
It's tough.
It's hard to get it right because you've got to do
for
volume.
Finance, I think.
Yeah, for finance. So if you look at what
Monzo's
Currys are doing, could a bank do what Currys are doing?
Maybe.
100%. Look at Monzo. Look at Monzo.
The employer,
the employer branding piece.
But the thing is with Monzo, their staff they're not as accessible as the staff.
That's true,
Currys.
actually. Yeah.
I mean, you should be able to change.
True.
I mean, it's all about positioning. Because this is our chat on TikTok yesterday. It's about the business needs to believe in it and invest in it, and then it can work. But it's getting the stakeholders to actually believe in it.
It's stakeholders and just really getting your head around what the customer really wants and what's making a difference for them. And certainly one business I worked for, actually the staff were the missing piece in the jigsaw, and they were talking more about tech and less about people. And actually the tech solutions are great, but actually for that business, having someone that you could still talk to when things went wrong or when you needed some help was a massive plus.
And so we always like doing a quick stop, like, you know, some of the marketing things, just to wrap up. So I was thinking, like, things like, what are your favorite marketing tools that you can't live without, stuff that you love using?
I mean, I'm a big fan of HubSpot.
Yeah.
I know not every business has HubSpot, but I love HubSpot. And I do love MPS, and I've used tools integrated with HubSpot, like Delighted, which is quite a cool tool.
Cool. Okay. What's Delighted?
It's essentially a tool for sending surveys, MPS surveys.
Nice.
Somebody was asking about that. What's it called? How do you spell it? Is it DE then lighted?
Yeah.
Like
Nice.
Delighted. Yeah.
I was double checking. Yeah.
I'm not an expert on Canva.
But
I mean,
it's a critical marketing.
It is,
Canva from my hometown, built in Brisbane, born and bred.
Oh, that's a good fact.
Unreal. It's just so cool.
It's brilliant, and it is intuitive, and I've
It's
played around
amazing.
with it.
Adobe people hate it, but I'm like, to my designers, I'm like, just
everyone
honestly.
can use it. It's user friendly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Shutterstock in terms of their asset library.
Nice.
I mean, there's so. I mean, I'm always encouraging people that I work with is there's so many tools out there. It's hard to keep up, right?
Yeah.
It's just to give them a go, and to try and bring them in, because if it just makes your life 1% better, 1% easier, that's going to be a good thing for the business.
I do think it's important people go through their MarTech stack every month. Like, I make sure, because we sign up to so much stuff.
Yeah.
You do,
and my founders, I'm like to them,
Yeah.
and I say, like, I put a thing in my diary, like making sure I check that subscription, because I'm like, we've signed up to so many.
Yeah. That's a
so I
big
can't
cost
imagine
saving.
founders. Oh, that is a cost saving. You're right.
Because you see
MarTech.
all those
It is,
subscriptions.
You're just like, oh crap, what am I
And
doing?
you're like,
you have
you're
to
like,
do it
what's
each
that?
month.
And people are like, I don't know, actually.
It's in because
I don't
it's
know where
£10,
that's coming
right?
out
You're
from.
like £10.
Yeah.
I
And
spoke
you
to a
don't
beauty
think
business.
about
They
it.
had 200 subscriptions, and they got it down to 20 within
200.
200
to
down
20.
to
Oh, no,
20.
more than that.
Oh,
You should
that's
see Shopify
crazy.
subscriptions for clients. I see this because they just plugins.
Yeah.
People just,
true, yeah.
Oh, I mean, I think I went to a tech conference, like it was the start of this year or something. They said on average people have got about like, I think they've got maybe about 80 on average.
80?
Every business has about 80 MarTech stacks.
Oh.
It's not that a
feel
lot when
like-
you think about like your CRM, your Monday.com, like your email stuff. Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just
All of that
80 is, and then you think
And then
about how much it's
email
costing you.
just to sort of bump up to pro or to whatever it is.
I spoke to another marketing director from a massive hotel chain, and they bought Salesforce and they weren't even using it, and they were paying.
That's the problem. People
that's
aren't using
painful,
it. And I say,
yeah.
if you're not using it, we need to get rid of it now. It freaks me out.
All of those big kind
Yeah.
of CRMs, invariably half the capability, probably more than half the capability is not being used.
Totally.
And yet
But how
they
do
keep bringing out
marketeers
new
get away with
updates.
that from their bosses? Is it because the bosses just
well,
don't
no,
know?
the
or?
fact is people need to... Sorry, you answered that question.
Sorry.
I'm so passionate about the fact that people need to be trained on it.
But how does that happen? Like, how, as a business, how is that getting missed?
Yeah, I mean the
lot
irony
of
is
time. People
the
just
irony
do
is
a
the
dedicated role for
systems
it.
the systems kind of representatives want you to use that capability,
Yeah.
but invariably there's a lot of kind of self-guided learning. People are time poor.
Yeah.
And although the systems get more and more intuitive, to learn about a new capability takes time, and then you've got to use it
At least 3
repeatedly.
months, I think,
Yeah,
to
you
get
keep
right into the
using
flow of it.
Yeah, it's just it takes time. you
Yeah.
know.
There should be like a comparison site for MarTech or MarTech
There
sites.
is,
must
man.
be.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, man.
What's it
there
called?
must be.
G2 maybe, but they're not
G2.
very good. I wanted to build one that was separate. I actually wanted to build one that
So you
was
could
like
plug
better.
everything in, all the costs and everything.
No, we could definitely build this
That's a
idea.
really good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
think about it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Because if people are
Anyway.
using
You saw it here
100, they
first.
go, oh, this would be cheaper.
We're creating a business idea.
Yeah, let's not put that out there.
I know.
No stealing.
We're going to clip
No
that.
stealing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And any other things that you just think you can't live without in marketing that's really crucial to you day to day?
I mean, AI.
Yeah.
AI versus HR. I mean, AI is a brilliant effectiveness tool, and it's funny how people don't want to talk about it because it feels like it's cheating in some way, shape, or form. But
True.
It's more of a support, isn't it, for everyone?
Yeah.
it's great for editing, for proofing, even sometimes using as a thought partner.
Yeah.
You know,
unfortunately, my friend's into psychology, and I'm like, it's not your psychologist.
ChatGPT is my new best mate.
I think it is
It literally
everyone's
is.
best mate.
There's a Spotify podcast about people's proper addictions with it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
maybe
it's
not
hilarious.
addiction, though.
Anyway, sorry.
And using that sort of kit to churn out illustrations and
Yeah.
you know, I think that's changed the modern marketer's game.
But I think thought process a bit is great, but like copying and pasting is just not play on these days. For if you put it on LinkedIn, it's like
you
all
can't
the
really do
stuff.
that.
Everyone's
Yeah.
like, that was clearly, come on. That was
yeah,
ChatGPT.
the dreaded
change it.
M dash, is it?
Oh yeah, the dash. Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard
yeah.
about this,
No one's ever heard
What
of
if
it
someone
until
sees, I've seen once before, like someone's left the feedback at the bottom, like this is, what do you think about this?
Yeah,
and then
I
you're
love
like,
that.
come on.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Or the other classic is the US spelling, because it kind of
Yeah, with the
defaults
Zs.
to US
Come
spelling.
on,
Yeah.
I've literally got. You can change it in the settings just to say
Yeah.
this is my tone of voice,
Yes.
and never Americanized. And
Yeah.
And certainly, again, some of the businesses I've worked with, where
Yeah.
I don't know, we're trying to source a case study.
yeah, be careful.
Yeah, there are tools where you can also chuck these things through.
Yes.
But there's a bit of a kind of a war game going on with.
I
you
know.
what's detectable versus what's not detectable.
That's true.
It's naughty. You never know if it's really true. Like,
But you don't want your search rankings to suffer.
Yeah.
You know,
it's tough at the moment. With
tough times.
it is tough with
you
search
know.
rankings. We can
and certainly
dive
I've
later.
been working with businesses where we have been seeing lead opportunities come through from chat.
Oh,
GPT.
totally. I see it on my clients.
okay.
ChatGPT
Already.
is like
Yeah.
it's getting to like 5 to 10%
Yeah.
of leads
Oh,
instead
wow.
of like
Okay.
organically as Google. That would be freaking Google out right now.
Yeah, and contextual search on ChatGPT is where a lot of consumers are going.
It's awesome for travel.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I do it always for travel. So I'm like moving away from, you know, there's a lot of money spent on like with our hotel clients, you know, they put all this money into Google ads or just Google hotel bidding on the right, you know, like when
Yes.
you Google a hotel, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's a huge amount of like millions that are spent there. And now I just go straight into ChatGPT and
That's
I
what
do
we
my
did.
hotel.
So we're going to the Cotswolds next month. And
Come on with an itinerary.
and we've never been to the Cotswolds, so I just said,
I can't even believe that as a Brit. It's like just
I know.
well,
yeah,
if you
no,
live in the
it is
Lake
bad.
District, it's
It
the
is
best
bad.
Is that a
countryside.
thing?
Why
Yeah.
go, why
No,
go
it is
somewhere
bad.
really
I mean, I haven't been
flat?
to the Great Barrier Reef and
Oh,
Yeah.
Great Barrier Reef. Yeah, that's amazing.
I haven't been.
I was
there.
I've not
in-
been. I've seen the pictures.
I was in India recently, somewhere I've
Oh.
never been before,
Yeah.
and
Nice.
it curated that.
But that's what you want.
itinerary.
They should do like
I
a
want to
little
go
thing,
here, here,
an
and here,
action
and
where it
here.
goes,
Yeah.
book the table.
Yeah.
No, they've started integrating plugins.
Oh,
already.
really?
Oh, there
book the
you
table,
go,
book the
see.
hotel.
It's incredible.
It's going to happen. I
Yeah.
know. Can you believe Bing? Like Bing has just been one that's always been wanting to be Google, and now because they own it's Microsoft, they're just going to take over. I just think it's going to be such a fight.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
Fascinating.
I'm scared as it's
gonna make our lives
You've
easier.
got to change
A lot of
everything for
people are scared
SEO
of it,
people. It's scary for SEO people.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's profound.
Yeah.
It's profound, and it's already changing. So
Yeah,
it's definitely coming.
It's marketing classic. It changes that every week. We're like, great, new
Exactly.
thing, new trend. We love that.
New things to
Well, thank you so
Cool.
much for being on the podcast. It's
Thank
been
you.
awesome.
It's a pleasure, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Cool.
And yeah, it's great to chat. We should do it again sometime.
Yeah.
100%.
Make sure to hit follow.
Thank you.